So these are the tools you're going to be using. Some basic hand tools: ratchet 3/8, 13mm socket, 21mm socket. I have an extension for the 21mm, a little hook to hold the caliper up, a flathead screwdriver, some torque bits, specifically the T30, a torque wrench, a caliper piston compressor tool, some caliper pin grease, a hammer, a flashlight, and a rag. Okay, so we're going to be removing the brake pads and doing the pads and rotors. This is the rotor, these are the brake pads right inside, but we're going to start off with removing the caliper. There's going to be 2 bolts here that hold it down. So this is a 13mm. We're using a ratchet to break it loose. You're going to go counterclockwise, but counterclockwise is looking at it from that way, this way. So counterclockwise. And then the top one, same thing. So this is going to spin. So if you see here, this is going to spin sometimes. So sometimes what I like to do is just hold it down with some clamps, and then I run out the bolts. And there is a hex on this as well, so you can use a wrench on it, but sometimes the wrench is too thick and it won't fit. So sometimes I just like to hold it so it doesn't spin on me. So same thing on the top here. See how it spins completely? So again, just hold it down with some pliers and it'll pop out just like that. Now these 2 bolts are different. As you see, the top one has a big old spacer and the bottom one doesn't. I assume they do this for vibration purposes, to keep it from vibrating. A lot of different reasons why they do this. Okay, so now that we have that caliper off, we can go ahead and remove it completely from the actual brakes. But right here it's looking like it's going to be a little bit tight because the hose is really tight on it. So I'm going to have to remove it from its place where it's living. There's a little clip here that I'm going to remove using a flathead screwdriver. Okay, so now we're going to remove the clip with our flathead. You just go underneath it here and just push up. And here is the clip. All I did was I put the flathead there and I pulled up on it. Now that we have that off, we can remove the hose. Basically, you're going to push back on it and then slide it up, just like that. Now that we have that off, we can remove the caliper. Sometimes it does not want to come off, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my flathead to pry up on it on both sides. So it comes off. And now that it's off, I can go ahead and put it to the side. Now what I want you to do is I don't want you to just hang the caliper, because some people say it will damage the hose. Never seen it happen, but obviously it can happen. So what we're going to do is just hang it here with our hook off the spring. That way it's out of the way. Now that we have that off, we're going to go ahead and remove the brake pads. And we're going to remove the caliper bracket, which is right here. This is going to be 21mm bolts on the back side. So we're going to get our 21mm socket. Pop it off. Remove those 2 bolts. And then we can remove the brake pads. So now we're going to remove the rotor. The rotor is going to have a little screw here that is a torque, and this is a T30. Yep. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to just use a ratchet to remove it. The reason why is because sometimes these things get rusted. So if you're in the East Coast, you're going to want to spray penetrating spray to make sure that we cut through any rust. In our case, we're going to use this driver. That what this does, it hits it, when you hit it with the hammer, it hits it, it duplicates the hit, and it concentrates all of that hit right on the screw. And that way it'll break loose any rust, and it'll be easy for us to remove, because if this thing strips, you'll have a hell of a time getting this rotor off. So again, make sure it's going the right way, holding it counterclockwise, and then just hit it with the hammer. And there you go. You can see there that it's now loose, and we can spin it off. No problem. Now that we have that off, put that to the side, we can remove the rotor. Okay, so now we're going to put everything back together the exact same way that we took everything off. Okay, so now we're going to put everything back together in the opposite way that we removed everything. So we're going to put the screw back in. Now some people will use a little bit of anti-seize on that screw. The reason why is because when they do their brake job again, they don't want to have any issues. Here in the West Coast, we really don't worry about that too much. This will probably be the last rotor this vehicle will have. And not a big deal, but we want to definitely make sure that it's nice and tight on there so it doesn't come loose. And honestly, this is really here in the assembly of the car. They use this to make sure that the rotor is held on. Okay, so now we're going to put on the caliper bracket. So we have the pads on it already. You might not, but just make sure you put the pads on there. Put on the back bolts, the 21 millimeters. We're going to tighten those down. You just run them down. Now we're going to torque these down. Now if you do not have a torque wrench, do not stress about it. We're going to put the brake pads on to kind of show you how to do it. So basically I like to go from the bottom first, make sure that's all the way in, and then we kind of angle it and we push down on the little tab on the clips. Make sure the clips are in there, okay? If the clips are bad, replace them, but they look good on ours. So we're going to just put everything back together and they slide right in like that. Okay, same thing for the back side. Now before we keep going and put on the caliper, we're going to make sure that these pins are greased and they're moving in and out nice and easily. So basically you remove them, you're going to clean this off, put new grease, and then put it back in. Okay, so here we have our caliper pin grease. These do have to be lubricated every time you do a brake job, especially if you're on the East Coast. I keep emphasizing that, but it is true. So get a little bit of grease on there, not a crazy amount, just enough to coat the pin. And you put it back in. And you just ensure there's no air trapped in there in the little boot. Make sure the boot is nice and not ripped, and make sure it goes in and out. You do that on this one and on the top one. Make sure that you know which one came out of which, because sometimes they are different. Let's go ahead and put on the caliper. So basically, before we put it on, you have to compress the pistons. These are the pistons of the caliper. You have to make sure that the boot is not broken or damaged, because this protects the seal inside of the piston, because this goes in and out every time you hit the brakes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push them back in. And the tool that I'm using, linked below, is our Lyle caliper compressor. They make these in two variations. They make it for a double piston. I'm using the single piston because I only have this one and it actually works really well. What I do is I press it from one side first, as you see there. And as I press in one, the other one kind of presses in as well. But then I go ahead and go to the other side, compress that one, and I go back and forth on there until they're all pushed in. All the way in. Okay, now that they're all the way in, it'll be a lot easier for us to put it back on to the brake pads. The number one thing though is, remember, we had to route this hose. Keep that in mind, and also make sure that the hose is not twisted. Sometimes when you remove it from here, you'll twist it and turn it, and what will happen is that it'll twist and it'll pinch. Obviously bad for the brakes, your safety, and the parts themselves. So put the caliper on. Remember that the top bolt was a little bit weirder and bigger than the bottom one. Go ahead and start them by hand in the bottom one. Before we tighten them up, I'm going to just make sure that the hose will go in. And there is a direction to this. There is a flat spot on it. So you won't be able to put it in any other way except for the way it wants it to go. Once you put that in, we have the clip. The clip goes forward. Put it in. And with the little hammer, tap it in. Oh. And now it's secure. Now that you did that, we're going to run down the screws here. Remember that this might spin. Hopefully we're lucky and it doesn't. Hey, it didn't. Great. And we're going to torque these down